I hadn't paid attention. Let's see.
No, I don't think he welcomes, and he went, now that she's showing that. Is it working?
Okay, it's working now.
Okay.
Oh.
You good? Okay, trust everyone that is in attendance can hear us.
Sorry, I'm sorry, excuse me. Do you want to just mention, because people couldn't hear about the moment of silence for Joe Sullivan?
Oh, we would like,
Maybe just wanted to.
yeah, we'd like the mayor to say again all the lovely things he said for our moment of silence.
Okay, so our moment of silence that we just did was for Joe Sullivan, the former principal. He was here for 10 years at Gloucester High. Joe was a great guy. I'm gonna say what I said about his portrait down the hall in the lecture hall. He's got a stern look on his face, but he had a heart of gold. I had the privilege of working with Joe when I was here at the school committee. Two of my three kids were here at the high school while he was the principal. And Joe will be greatly missed by all who knew him. And but just keep his family in our thoughts.
Okay, next item of business is the oral communications. oral communications. The public shall have the opportunity at every regular school committee meeting to be heard under oral communications. Oral communications shall allow any resident who has a request or complaint of any nature relative to the school committee business to appear before the school committee, state their problem without debate, and the matter may be referred to the proper subcommittee. For items that are on the agenda, members of the public may address the committee with the permission of the chair. Persons speaking under oral communications shall be limited to 3 minutes each and shall submit a copy of their prepared communication to the reporting secretary. Okay, so we have a lot of people in attendance. Oh, wait. Yeah, we have a lot of people in attendance. So if anybody wants to speak, you can raise your hand now. Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to recognitions.
Yeah, I just want to recognize a couple of organizations or groups. One is the recent inductees into the Gloucester High School Athletic Hall of Fame. A tremendous amount of really terrific athletes and student athletes that represented Gloucester in a outstanding fashion when they were student athletes here at Gloucester High School. Also want to recognize the cheer team who finished second in the sectionals in Billerica. Under the radar, but a really good showing by them in Billerica. And I think tonight they were in Danvers for the Northeast Conference Championships.
I will follow up on the recognition of the Hall of Fame ceremony, which was beautifully done by Bill Goodwin and Lisa Olson. Every recipient got up and said just the nicest, loveliest things about how special their experience has been and what how proud they were of teams, coaches, and teammates, and bonds forever, and just really was truly a feel-good moment. I don't think they had inducted anybody for 10 years, so this was catch up, but it was really quite nicely done in the field house. Okay. Next, we have the Gloucester Student Advisory Council, and we do have a couple of students with us this evening. We have Ivana Ferrara and I know we have another, Jordan Mackey. You are welcome to provide your report. Thank you for being here.
Hi, I'm Ivana. I'm the president of the board, and we have a couple of notes for today's meeting. Last Tuesday, we had a successful mock election.
Ivana, can you just give us, Ivana, just give us 1 minute. We're having this same speaker issue of us hearing you. Just give us, we know how to fix it. So just give us a minute.
Technical difficulties. We'll be right with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ivana, try that, please.
Ivana, can you speak again, please? No.
Here is she.
Here we go. Ivana or Jordan, can you try that, please?
Did it work?
If you just speak up.
Speak up. We're hearing most of what you say.
Okay. Last Tuesday, we had a successful mock election, which accurately predicted the results of yesterday's presidential election. All GHS students voted, and results were calculated based on the grade-based electoral college system and on the overall popular vote. And several GHS students volunteered last night to help sort through ballots and identify any write-ins. This is exciting because it gave students the opportunity to be involved, even if they cannot legally vote yet. And then I'll be passing the rest on to my Vice President, Jordan.
Thank you.
So the GHS theater program had their fall play Make 'em Laugh, and it'll be put on later this month. The shows are Thursday, November 21st at 7 p.m. and Friday, November 22nd at 7 p.m., Saturday, November 23rd at 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. The theater workshop is on Friday, November 22nd. The GHS theater program will be hosting 2 film and theater workshops during the school day. Those will be led by Chris Thor, and these workshops are perfect for anyone interested in pursuing a career in performing arts. And lastly, the Crane Estate Art Show is 13 GHS juniors and seniors who have their work on display at an annual Crane Estate Art Show this past weekend. The art and more will be displayed at GHS in December. And that's all we have for you tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you for attending. Enjoy your night. Okay, next item of business is the consent agenda. Does anybody have any items they would like to remove?
I do. Between the October. Personnel subcommittee. Minutes from this consent agenda.
Okay, all right. And given that there are executive session minutes, we will pick it up in executive session.
I move that we approve the consent agenda minus the one we just removed.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All passes unanimously. Next, we have deliberation on education issues and the superintendent's report.
Okay, sorry, folks, get to. Our updates on a few things tonight, just sort of, as we always do, a quick sort of around the horn, about a few things that happened recently in schools. So more festive items tonight, and then we'll have a enrollment report, our annual enrollment report, and then also an update on a number of grants that we're receiving to support the expansion and strengthening of our career growth tech program. So we pull that up here. Yeah, as we say in the Gloucester Public Schools, every day matters and every day belongs. Everybody belongs, what did I say? Every belongs to. Almost every day belongs. Every day matters, everybody belongs. So just in terms of November 5th, Professional Development Day, I'll hand this over to Amy Pasquarello, our Assistant Superintendent, to talk about the day. So as folks know, on Election Day, we typically have a day off from school and for students, but all our staff are working hard in professional development and always like to share with the members of the public what we're doing on that day, because we're obviously asking families to take care of their children. It was a fantastic day. Just about all of our staff were there, but Ms. Pascal will give you details about the great work that was done across the board.
So it was similar design to years past where we had 4 sessions throughout the day. Our first session, we all came together as a district, and the theme for the day and really for the year for professional development is teaching all students. And so we had Dr. Matt Bergman talk to us about Universal Design for Learning, or it's called UDL. And it's really about how to implement inclusive practices so that all students have access to the curriculum, and how that can work throughout the curriculum. The morning session, the entire district was together, so we had a very good kickoff together and a similar messaging. And then he continued to do 3 more sessions, one for pre-K to 5, one for middle school, and one for high school, with the same topic, except focusing more on student voice and choice. And geared his presentation specifically to the grade levels that were in front of him. A lot of times it's hard to watch a professional development if you're a high school teacher and they're getting all elementary examples and vice versa. So he made sure that it was customized for their grade levels. And so that happened throughout the day. And then the next one. Then for the other 2 sessions, staff members got to choose. We had over 50 offerings throughout the day. And that was run by, we had some people from outside coming in to run courses, but we had mostly teachers and staff that ran offerings on all kinds of topics. What you see here on the left is a presentation by Anne Marie Rad and Peggy Brown on teacher talk and what you say and how you say matters. When you're talking with students, they're doing a circle, kind of talking about the professional development there. On the right, we have Dave Brown, who is teaching staff about the sales cars that we use in the Science Center. I have a few more. Is there another page? Oh, that's always up. We took a lot of pictures. There were a lot more offerings. But these are the two that were in the pack. But we talked, we did some curriculum development, whether it be wit and wisdom, diving deeper into that, or looking at social studies at the middle school. We had a co-teaching workshop at the high school so that co-teaching teams can really deepen their understanding. We had special education topics. One of my favorite ones that I walked into, there was one for paraprofessionals, it was very well received. Rachel Clemenzi led that on disability categories. And she had very hands-on approach so paraprofessionals could understand what it's like to have different disabilities, and they kind of had some scenarios they walked through. It was very interactive, and went in there and they reenacted something that I had just missed to show me what they were learning. It was very good. So overall, it was a good day. And we ended it with an opportunity for staff to get a flu shot. The end of the day nurse.
All right, thank you. Great. I'm sure that the professional training, that was very well received, and a really important topic of learning more about student with disabilities, and of course, teaching all students. Other things that have been going on, Halloween's a big deal all the way in our schools. There's a preschool Halloween parade. On the left is looks like maybe it's a butterfly. On the right is a superintendent with an Iron Man mask on, helping out at the preschool, handing out. Most preschool staff were dressed as some version of a dog. There's gonna be some Dalmatians, and I think that looks like a T-Rex as well. So, but also elementary trunk or treats were complete with Plum Cove going as well. There are parades for Halloween as well. You see East Veterans on the right. Recognize them?
West Coast.
Oh yeah, West Parish, thank you very much. So all around, good time. Here at East Veterans, a curriculum effort here, on the whale mobile came to town. That is Nile the whale. It's a very large whale on the right side. And East Veterans 3rd and 4th graders had a chance to meet Nile the whale. We really appreciate the whale mobile coming by and helping us our students learn about the ocean and whales and sea mammals. Native American Heritage Month is on display at East Veterans Elementary School. The month of November is Native American Heritage Month, and really appreciate the students and staff there, recognize the cultures and history and contributions of Native Americans as well. That's our quick update from the superintendent. I now have a enrollment update for the schools. Can I go right into that?
Absolutely.
Great. So every year, the official enrollment for any public school in Massachusetts is determined on October 1st with submission to DESE at that point. And they also do another report on March 1st as well. We always report on the October one, and October one is the one that goes up on the DESE website for all to see. So I just want to give folks an update of where we are. So our enrollment remains steady. And our enrollment has really remained steady over the past 5 years or more. And I'll show you more of that longitudinal data in a moment. This year, our total enrollment remains steady at 2,840 students. That's a decrease of only 24 students from last year. And if you remember, last year increased by 59 students from the previous year. For any given year, there's some fluctuations. What we always look for are any trends, and the trend certainly continues to be that our enrollment is remaining steady. In fact, in kindergarten, we have the exact same number of students in kindergarten that we did last year, 230 students. And both last year and this year, that's the second highest kindergarten enrollment since 2017-18. So, and I'll show you again that data in a moment. O'Malley enrollment is at 619 students, and that has remained consistent for the last 5 years. GHS, the 12th grade, is larger than last year's 11th grade, meaning we gain students as they move from 11th to 12th grade, but it is smaller than last year's 12th grade. So this year's 12th grade is smaller than last year's 12th grade. I'll show those numbers in a moment, of course. And then GHS enrollment has remained steady. Of course, it fluctuates, year to year. since 2016 to 2017. It has declined this year at 778. I'll show you that longitudinal data in a moment. Our enrollment of English language and multilingual learners remains similar to last year, but growth has flattened out. I'll show you that as well. We had very significant growth over the past 7-8 years, but that we still have the highest number of multilingual learners in the district ever. But the growth has sort of steady, basically. Okay, it's really flattened out before that. So here, just on in terms of looking at the actual numbers. So this is enrollment by school and grade. So you see the schools on the left-hand side. In preschool, elementary, then O'Malley and GHS. And you see also by classroom as well. Okay. And you'll see just the numbers, the schools being at 292. You'll see that across the board here, base better than 451. We'll look at some longitudinal data at the school by school in a moment. And then you'll see GHS at 1778. We'll also look at some of the sort of the patterns that happen between 5th grade up through high school in a little bit. And then you see here the total for FY24 towards the bottom, 2,864 last year, and there's the decrease of 2,840 as well. I do want to point out one thing. You'll notice that Plum Cove has 46 students in 2 classes. Those are our highest numbers this year, and really typically for kindergarten. There's a very specific reason for that. And that's because, as you remember, 2 years ago when you had the school zone update, we allowed families who already had students at Plum Cove and at Beaman to have their siblings continue to go there when they became kindergartners. And it just so happens that 8 siblings, this was last year, I think it was 2 siblings, maybe 3, that stayed at Beaman or Plum Cove. This year there happened to be 8 siblings who are zoned for Beaman currently, but they entered Plum Cove kindergarten because they already have siblings who are at Plum Cove. You'll notice that while Beaman has smaller class size, so 16 per student, and Plum Cove has 23, if you actually had, if people were going by their zones at this point, those would be evened out, and both schools would be at 18. So that's a bit of an anomaly. We don't expect that's going to wean off of that dynamic, but the school committee decided to sort of hold those families harmless if they chose that. And that's the reason why we have larger numbers in Plum Cove and kindergarten this year, and slightly smaller at Beaman. Any questions about that at all? Great. Here's our enrollment, in terms of its bar chart over the years. You can see right now we're 2,840, but the movement year to year has been very. I mean, there's movement year to year, but you can see that line across is quite steady. Low in FY21, which was I think the full COVID year, and then higher again, and remaining steady within some minor fluctuations year to year. So that's over the last 5. If you go back to FY20, essentially the same number, FY19 as well. Prior to that, we were over 2,900, but for the last 6 or 7 years, remaining at sort of the high mid 2,800s basically. Here's enrollment by grade level just for this year. So I showed that to you already, but it's just easier to see. I will talk about some of the dips we have at high school in a moment. And here's the 5 and 10th year enrollment history. So again, as I reported last year, despite annual fluctuations, total enrollment has stabilized since 2020. Okay, again, there are pluses and minuses, but you see a 5-year change here of only 11 students. 11 students difference from from school year 2019, 2020, basically. Okay, and then you do see some changes here. For example, West Parish, this orange cell here, that's the most students they've ever had at 382. We can see it's when they first anyway, so that's the highest they have. About 12 students more than last year, 6 students more than 2 years ago, 11 students more than a few years ago. In a school that has 18 classrooms, that's not a very big growth in the last few years, but certainly larger than it was in 2019 and in 2018, that sort of thing. What you have there is the class sizes aren't particularly different than in the past, where you typically have 20 and 21 at West Parish, and that's what they've had. There are a couple which are a little bit bigger. but now you have 20 and 21 per sort of very solidly across all grades as a classroom average, whereas before you might have had some dips, that sort of thing. So there are classes of 22, I think maybe 1 or 23 at West Parish, but still, those are lower class sizes, and typical class sizes for what we see. Those are our larger ones. With that, and then as you can see, K to 5 enrollment down here. The change in 5 years is plus 32. Again, in other words, up 32 or minus 11. That's we consider that very stable. And here's the longitudinal data by enrollment by grade. Again, so you can see year by year. I'll look at this a little bit more in a moment. Sort of just how it's changed. It changed year to year. Okay. One of the probably the most notable one here is 12th grade and 11th grade. We used to be sort of regularly. Well, actually, you see there are fluctuations even in these grades. So, 2018, 2019, you see 168, 173, similar size that we have right now. Whereas before that, you might have seen something bigger. So it does just change year to year, but we'll look at some of the trends in a moment. Cohort changes, so we look, from one year to the next. So kindergarten becomes a first grade, first grade becomes a second grade, and how are those changes, okay? So we'll get into now some of the things that we've been looking at and we see goes from year to year into those cohorts as they move up, they stay stable in terms of numbers. Of course, there's ins and outs of different students, but numbers either staying the same or growing. The green cells, so you look, from first grade last year to second grade this year, those ones that are green are ones that increased, okay? So, you can see from, and then, they're not many that increased that much, but like grade 3 last year, grade 4 went up 4 students, okay? The 2 cohorts that increased the most were grade 11 last year to grade 12 this year, that increased by 10, I mentioned that earlier. And then grade 8 to 9 went from by 12 students, 217 to 229. I'll talk more about the 8th grade transition in a little bit. The white ones are the ones who stay the same, fewer than 4 student changes. And then the 2 ones that are red, 9th to 10th went down by 23 students, and 10th to 11th went down by a larger number. And we'll talk about that more because we see both of those as a particular pattern. I'll get to in a moment. One question folks have had is, when you change schools, and a couple of years started looking at this every year, from elementary to 6th grade, or from 8th grade to 9th grade. So you go from O'Malley to Gloucester High. And just want to show, so if you follow the colors, you'll see that the change from year to year, from 5th to 6th, is typically pretty steady. Say, for example, last year's 5th grade had 213 students. This year has 210 in 6th grade, okay? FY23 in the green here went from 207 in 5th grade to 202 in 6th grade the following year. So you see, it's quite steady. It has been for the last 5 years in terms of that movement. And similar in 8th to 9th, you often will gain some students from 8th to 9th. So you see last year's 8th grade was 217. This year's 9th grade is 229. So an increase of 12. The prior year from 2023 to 2024, an increase from 8th to 9th of plus 17. So those totals are here on the bottom rows, change from prior year. So they fluctuate, but you can see generally we're gaining some from 8th to 9th. In 5th to 6th, we're losing some, but typically in pretty small numbers. Yeah, of course, yeah.
Just a question, I'm looking at the one FY22 has
FY22.
minus 12, but I don't see that.
So you go follow the yellow. So FY20.
Right, so that's the difference there.
Oh, it's 2. Okay,
Yeah, be a typo.
that is a typo.
Okay.
Thank you for catching that.
Okay,
We'll adjust that. That's actually
Okay.
-2 there, not -12.
okay.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Okay, this is too bad. Well, what I wanted to do was have some cover up some numbers here because there's a lot of numbers, but I'll try to do it anyway. I wanted to first focus on 6 through 8. Okay, so that's the top one. And if you follow the red down, if you follow color diagonally, you'll see that 6 through 8, our numbers stay pretty steady. Okay, they go up and down a little bit too, like, so, and I'll just use this example, most recently from FY 23 to FY 25. School year, we went from 203 in sixth grade, 207 in eighth grade, in seventh grade, 211 in eighth grade. So we see that, you see that pretty much the same, you know, it might go down 4 students over, 3 years in the yellow here. It stays almost identical in the purple here over 3 years. That's what we generally see over time, looking longitudinally, that grades 6 through 8 stay pretty steady on cohorts. We also see now looking at 8 to 9, if you look at, across the row, 8 to 9, and then diagonally on the colors here. Does that make sense to people? I'm talking about? Okay, good. Is that we typically gain students. So if you look, sorry, what?
It's a busy schedule.
I know, I meant to cover pieces up. I'm not sure why the animation's not working, but there we go. Sorry about that. Is you look at 8 to 9. So for example, this year, eighth grade was 217, this year's 2.9, so that's plus 12. You looked at this just now, typically gain 8 to 9. But then here we go on 9 to 10 and 10 to 11. Okay, and this is important to look at. If you look at, I'll take the purple here, so this is 10 years ago, 241 in 9th grade, the following year, the 217 in 10th grade, following year 204 in 11th grade, okay? We often then see an increase back in 12th grade, okay? It's a common thing. I'll look at the green here. Again, this is 10 years ago, 242 in 9th grade, 201 in 10th grade, 168 in 11th grade, and then up again, 211 in 12th grade, okay? That could be in 12th grade because some kids are taking longer to graduate. Okay, that could be one reason. It also could be other kids move in as well, okay? But that's very, very likely to be a part of the puzzle why we gain in 12th grade, okay? And then recently the same, more recently, the same dynamic, 207 in 10th grade. So we increase from 9th to 10th, and then go down 207 in 10th grade. 2 years ago, 169 is 11th graders, and then 179. So going down from 9th to 10th. This one actually increased, sorry, this increased, but this example here, 9th to 10th decreased and then decreased again, 10th to 11th.
It's a pretty significant decrease.
Yes, yes.
I can't help but
Both,
wonder.
yes.
I can't help but wonder how much Essex Tech plays in that. Back in 15, 16, I believe is when we were expanding the school and more students were accepted.
But
As we
Essex Tech,
build out,
Essex Tech would be 8th to 9th, wouldn't it though?
it would be 9 to 10.
Don't they
No,
start
at
9th?
9.
Yeah, and so that's what folks have thought about, but as I sort of described here,
But see how we went down from 9 in 2015 is when we started expanding the school and took more students. I think we took a third more students and we were able to the previous
It's
year.
going straight down,
Across grades.
just looking.
Yeah. Well, usually it's 9th and 10th grade when you get in. We went from 241 to 217.
I'm not sure, because I think we lose folks to Essex Tech in 9th grade, and as I showed here.
Or 10.
Or 10th? Okay,
They get waitlisted the first year sometimes.
so we can look into it and see what we lose Essex Tech, but as we said, we're typically gaining folks from 8th to 9th. Those classrooms, that class size increases, so that class size, the class size of the class, I should say. Okay, and then. Sorry, I had some problem with advancing this thing. Okay, this is special education students. So just to show how things have changed from last year. So from last year, we're at 701 students. Now 679 students with disabilities. You see our percentage has been 24, more than 24 for a number of years. We're at essentially at 23.9 or 24%. And that is always higher than the state special education percentage wise. And it will remain, the state hasn't, published or released their number, but we anticipate that that'll be higher. And this is just the special education enrollment, same information is presented as a bar graph. You can see sort of, pretty steady over the past few years. Over the past number of years, there's some fluctuations, like we said, and that should mirror the general population ups and downs as well.
That's out of district as well?
No, this is living district.
Okay.
And then you have learners, so as I said,
Just another follow-up question. So that includes a range of needs, right?
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah.
a wide range.
Why wait? Yep, exactly right, exactly right.
So people with like, lower tier like requirements for interventions.
Yeah, I mean, all sorts, there's learning disabilities, there's cognitive disabilities, there's
Speech impediments.
speech impediments, behavior, emotion, behavior, emotional disabilities, and then specific learning disabilities, so it's a very wide range, absolutely. And then this is English language learners, so again, just to show you, said that in the beginning, that our enrollment has remained steady from last year to this year. An increase of only 6 students. We remain above 10% in terms of enrollment of multilingual English language and multilingual learners. But you can see the growth has over the last, from last year to this year has stayed, I guess plateaued. Doesn't mean they'll continue that way, but still, year over year since FY15, the number is tripled. So.
And during the average school year, we obviously have some English language learners also moving into the district, is that?
Yeah, we typically have that sort of, we have English learners typically, moving district as the year goes along. So that number may increase in terms of being identified. Also, some folks might depart as well, family, and that's across all types of families, all learners and all language speakers. But yeah, we'll get increases, they call it churn,
Yeah.
which is, families come in, families leave. So, yeah. And the past couple of years, there have been more English learners, English learners have, a larger number of English learners have come in during the school year. As the school year sort of progresses, we see that. And this is just a bar graph for the same metrics. Here's EL enrollment by school. Here's this point, East Veterans, has about 450 students, as opposed to total students, as opposed to Gloucester High, which has just under 800, as you saw, but many more English learners, East Veterans, more English learners, East Veterans, and then Beaman, you can see it O'Malley, very different sized schools, but similar numbers of students. So we would anticipate that that will continue to increase the numbers at GHS and O'Malley. Different number of grades, obviously, but a small number of students. The last piece here is just that people ask about school choice. So school choice into and out of Gloucester Public Schools. That data isn't released until February. It isn't finalized until February. And as we did last year, we'll come back in February and give you a report on that. Those are which students who choose from other districts to come into Gloucester Public Schools, and those folks who live in Gloucester who choose to another public district outside of Gloucester.
On the last slide for enrollment by school for the English language learners. Of course, you were saying district-wide, I think about 10% English language learners, but significantly higher in East Veterans and Beaman. I calculated about 20%, so double. My question, I guess, is has this caused, difficulties for the educators, the teachers, as far as like how they incorporate the English language learners into?
A couple of things. So those schools have more staff than others typically. Now, I will say East Veterans is down English an EL teacher at this point. They advertise at the beginning of the year, so that's a challenge definitely.
Yeah.
It is how do I say this? Really important that we support our new students well, and we're learning how to do it better and better. But it is an added complexity. It's not that, it's not, I won't say it's not easy, but it's harder for folks, and we need to continue to support them with, better approach to an improved approach for students who come to us first. But no, it's an added level of complexity without a doubt.
Yeah.
Folks do really well at it. I think I'm always impressed by, how students and their families are really committed to learning and committed to, and the students, learning English, and also how well our staff support them. But it certainly is an added complexity, an added challenge. And I think we're, need to continue to get better and better at it.
Yeah, I think it's well known that younger kids learn languages a lot quicker. So I think this is like, even though it's causing challenges, probably the most ideal rather than saying like somebody coming in middle school or later. how do you balance immersion, for example, or like targeted interventions?
I will hand that to Amy Ascarello.
So we are what's called an SEI district, so sheltered English immersion. And so the theory is we want students to be exposed to the English language as often as possible. So we try to have them immersed in the general education as much as possible. That being said, our newcomers need some basic skills in order to succeed. So we do have pull-out services and push-in services depending on the level of their language acquisition. So our newcomers, which are right in the US with no English language, up to what's called a 1.5 on the WIDA scale. So they take a test and we kind of screen where they are. So it's from 0 to 1.5, they're considered a newcomer. And they would get the most intensive support. The recommendation is 45 minutes twice a day. They don't all get that. We give them as much as we can. At East Veterans in particular, we do have an open position that's been posted, as the superintendent mentioned, all year. So they are really stretched thin. So we would love to fill that position, right? But we're doing the best we can to support them as we can. And then once they get above that 1.5 threshold, we try to make sure they're in the classroom. So there's more language immersion. But then we have to provide some support within the classroom, depending on each student's needs. So it varies based on their level of acquisition.
It's obviously on an individual basis.
Right, but as a district, we're a sheltered English immersion district.
Yeah.
And to really help support teachers, we've recently added Elevation, which is a platform that kind of helps track our ML students and their language acquisition and their growth. It also provides teachers with what they call can-do statements, so that you can understand. So people develop language at different rates. So they might be able to hear you and understand you at one point, but they can't necessarily write a paper, right? And so based on their level of language acquisition, these can-do statements make it very clear that they can understand what you're saying, but their level of writing isn't to be expected to be the same as the level of speaking, because the speaking comes first.
Yeah, it's sort of like a difference in like functional,
Right.
or versus like academic level.
Right, and this platform in addition offers professional development that is linked right to the data of the students within the classrooms. So we're really trying to push that out for our teachers to have that as a support as well. So it's definitely a need, it's a challenge. We need to find an ML teacher for East Vets, so talk it up. It's posted, and we also need to continue to provide support through professional development and scheduling and all kinds of things to make it. I mean, it is an added challenge, and for a lot of teachers, it's a new challenge because our population has changed so much. Yes.
Is there any technology we can purchase if we have money to purchase it,
So-
to help with the English?
So the elevations helps for the teachers to understand it, yeah. We did try, it's called EL Lexia, so we use Lexia to help teach reading, and there's an EL version. We did try that for a while.
Yeah.
It
good.
wasn't as well received or well utilized,
Okay.
but we certainly can look into more things like that. We also have just brought in a new curriculum for newcomers. We talked about that last year. We're using Vista and Ready, Set, Go, I think is the other one, depending on the grade level. So we are using those kind of things. We try not to over translate
Right.
because that takes away from the immersion. So, you know, it's as all teaching is, it's an art, and we're helping to support our teachers to you know, hone their craft, and they're working really hard and they're doing a great job. But yeah, it is an added challenge.
So with, I think we call it sheltered immersion, how does
Sheltered English immersion.
sheltered English
It's called
immersion?
SEI.
So essentially, we don't have the option of like, say, you know, for lack of a better term, like siloing a group of students because there's so many in a particular elementary school to have like a, you know, a
Like a
separate class.
bilingual classroom or a multilingual, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I
Desi,
understand that might be counterproductive not having them like around the like, English
right,
language.
and it slows the acquisition of English language, so it would slow that. And so we want them to hear English and speak with, you know, their peers as much as they can in English. And Desi also really wants us to have, we pick a model, like some school districts go with a bilingual model. Gloucester Public, we would then have to have bilingual teachers all through the district. So with sheltered English immersion is what most districts go for, and it also promotes the acquisition of English at a faster rate.
Any questions? Any moment?
Another update, start career of tech. So some great news on, this was reported the BNS subcommittee a couple weeks ago. Been able to, with Brenda Waslick, our CBT career vocational technical education director, has been able to secure some significant grants. So first and foremost, Ruth Pino, longtime Gloucester resident, has provided a gift in the amount of $17,000 in the memory of her husband, Richard, who was a carpenter. And in order to build a material storage building outside of the carpentry shop. And this is going to allow, so presently we store a lot of the lumber inside the shop, taking a valuable workshop space from the students, or we store it outside where it can get damaged if it's not stored properly. So this will take care of that. It'll create more workstations for students. The building will also use one solar panel to power a fan to circulate air and help keep the lumber dry. That's the sort of functional aspect of it. And then also, as importantly, if not more importantly, all the carpentry and installation of the solar panel will be done by our GHS students. They will build it. Okay, so essentially, Pino, in her generosity, is giving materials, that sort of thing. We're getting it properly permitted and making sure that the DPW is aware of it. The structure is going to be 12 by 20 feet. And the 12 feet dimensions parallel to the current carpentry loading dock, okay, but will not impede that in any way. It'll be built upon cement pads, so it will move if ever necessary. It's going to be situated entirely in the grassy area outside the carpentry shop. There are 3 pine trees there that will need to be removed. In order to do that, they are not healthy, but we're going to replace them. We're going to partner with 400 Trees Gloucester, a local organization, to replace those trees here on the GHS property. We'll be working with DPW to make sure we place those properly. They rightfully just never want to be too close to the building. That's a great opportunity for us, and really appreciate with Pino and her support of Career Voc Tech and carpentry work. Okay, so we're all
Just say we accepted that grant last meeting.
great, good. Cape Ann Community Foundation has granted us $2,500 to help with the medical assistant construction costs. A fair bit of that actually was done yesterday in their room. And that includes, so it can be, sort of refitted to be for medical assisting. And that included plumbing work and really plumbing work at this point. As sort of the first step of clearing out that room from its old use and getting it ready for medical assisting. And then 2 very significant grants from the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. And so this is going to help the sort of automotive and also advanced manufacturing. And these 2 grants combined, this is one of them, will help both the envelope, so the infrastructure of the building, but also curriculum materials and equipment as well. So first we have supporting auto shop, the automotive simulators. This is to help support existing curriculum and also new electric vehicle curriculum, right? And then also cabinetry to do the electric vehicle repair safety cabinets, which will have EV protective equipment. The other piece is that we're working to reboot the. There we go. Reboot and provide much higher quality computing within the next. Advanced manufacturing computers are going to be obsolete within the next 2 years, so we'll use these to replace them and replace them with a new operating system, Windows 11, and then also part of this is using matching dollars, but we're able to use funds that are already in the budget as the matching. So it's sort of, it's not in kind, but it's not, we don't have to add additional funding to qualify for the matching. We're using what we already have either through the Perkins grant or in the operating budget already. So that's really supporting the advanced manufacturing. It's that's those sort of computing and curriculum materials and software. And then the other piece is to get the support the automotive shop and also the advanced manufacturing in two different ways. The small automotive shop, which you see there, is in difficult shape. There's leakage from the building envelope. There's flooring that needs to be upgraded. And really, we're gonna make this into a fully operational learning space. Again, like it hasn't been for quite some time. So working on that, that's sort of the infrastructure and improving the building is the small auto shop, which is to the left of the large auto shop. If you're looking at big doors there. And then also the compressors, which are well beyond their useful life. And those are the compressors that run the carpentry, automotive, and advanced manufacturing hydraulic tools. So that, along with national grid incentives, will allow us to replace those and make them current and modern and not out of date. Oh, sorry. And then another part of the Strand C grant here is the furniture, and that's part of making the small automotive shop operational again. This is in combined, the city's helping out with some EV chargers, which are related to a different grant the city has pursued and been awarded. So we'll be able to have EV chargers outside of the large automotive shop as well. So that's that. That's
Mayor has a question.
yes.
But I just want to comment. First of all, that's my father-in-law's 67 Plymouth Cesar driveway on the list. But it's great work, Brenda, for shaking the trees and getting this. It's great that we're strengthening. I think it's we have a shared goal of strengthening our own vocational program. And I know that Ted Costa of the Ed Foundation and Senator Charles' office, he has both hats, is
Yes.
working hard, shaking more trees to try to get some additional funding for the medical assisting program. So
Yes.
thank everybody who's involved. I
You know,
think it's gonna be a great, successful program.
Yeah, the school committee, myself, others, James Cook, and others have really been trying to lead sort of a strengthening and expanding of the Career Voc Tech program, and by doing so, we've sort of opened the door for a lot of other leaders, a lot of other partners, and then Ted Costa is really one of them. Chamber of Commerce is the Gloucester Education Foundation. So many folks are really stepping up. They're new and expanded advisory committees as well. So just really appreciate the interest in the city and the support of our Career Voc Tech program as just a tremendous pathway for our students.
And I understand they're doing round 2 of fundraising for t-shirts and things like they did last year. So the kids all have kind of their particular.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, Chamber of Commerce is looking for other ways to support.
And other donors, if anybody's listening, they're always looking for support. I think that's being headed up by the chamber.
You want to say one thing that's important to the community, and as we know, if school is canceled for in the upcoming days, I want to make sure that families know that I will be reaching out to them in a timely manner to make sure they're aware of any changes to our schedule when the school has to be canceled. And so just to alleviate any concerns folks have, if necessary, I will, just as I do for any school cancellation, we'll be notifying families in a timely manner.
And also.
Yeah, and any other operational considerations, absolutely, yeah. And that includes special education students who go to school outside our district and that sort of thing, but just to make sure that families have clear information about what's happening with the schools and any possible closures.
And we do not have the acceptance of these grants. I believe 3 out of the 4 that you spoke about on the agenda, so we'll put that on next.
Great, yep, excellent.
meeting's agenda. Okay, there have not been any subcommittee meetings since our last meeting. November is always an odd month in that we always meet first and the third because of late Thanksgiving break falls. So the next item is action. So we have 1 grant to accept, and I move that we accept the Gloucester Education Foundation West Parish 5th grade play grant in the amount of $3,500.
Second.
Thank you. And second, any discussion? All in
Thank you.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those are regular business. Discussions of other communications and new business. Does anybody have anything? There you go, Melissa.
Thank you. So as we all learned last night, MCAS is no longer gonna be a requirement, for graduation. So I'm hoping that we can get a report or refer it to program or whatever needs to be done to have a conversation with the school committee to know exactly what that means. I mean, I know MCAS isn't going away, but the requirement for graduation is. So is there a role for the school committee to play in updating any policy or procedures for graduation requirements? I know the state is gonna have their conversations, but it would just be nice that we as a school committee talk about what are next steps for us and when this impact actually takes place. Like, is it effective immediately? Is it next year? Just get some information to us and to our families to understand exactly what that means.
We'll do that, and part of that, we'll be waiting some time to understand what decisions are made about it. But we will certainly give folks an update when we have some concrete information, or even if we have just a timeline
Right,
for getting concrete information.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
just to get ahead of it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Okay. So now, we're moving on. We are going into executive session. And I move that we go into executive session pursuant to executive session purpose 3 of Mass General Law 30A, section 21A, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Gloucester Association of Educational Paraprofessionals, Gloucester Teachers Association, and the Massachusetts Nurses Association, as well as entering executive session pursuant to executive session purpose 3 of Mass General Law 30A, section 21A, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please. Second.
Mayor Verga,
Yes.
Mr. Minio,
Yes.
Ms. Texera.
Yes.
Mr. McKee,
Yes.
Ms. Weason.
Yes.
Chairperson Clancy,
Yes.
Mr. Mullin.
Yes.
Okay, and we will only be coming out of executive session to adjourn. So this concludes the Zoom portion of our meeting.